If you're struggling financially right now, paying off your mortgage early could actually make your life more dangerous, and almost nobody talks about this, because we've been taught that becoming debt-free is the ultimate financial goal. Pay off the house, eliminate the payment, own it outright. Sounds responsible, sounds safe, but for millions of homeowners, that decision quietly creates a financial trap they don't see until it's too late. Because the moment you pour all your extra money into your house, that money becomes locked away, untouchable, illiquid, and inaccessible when life goes wrong. And during layoffs, recessions, medical emergencies, or rising living costs, that safe decision can leave people completely exposed. What's even more disturbing is that banks actually benefit when financially stressed people make emotional money decisions instead of strategic ones. Meanwhile, wealthier people often do the exact opposite. So the real question is, what if rushing to pay off your mortgage isn't financial freedom, but one of the biggest middle-class money mistakes ever normalized? Because for most people, this decision isn't really about math, it's about fear. Here's the uncomfortable part most people never admit. A lot of homeowners don't rush to pay off their mortgage because it's mathematically smart. They do it because debt makes them emotionally uncomfortable. That monthly payment, sitting there every single month, creates anxiety, stress, a constant feeling of vulnerability. So people throw every extra dollar at the mortgage hoping it will finally make them feel safe. But emotional relief and actual financial security are not always the same thing. And during unstable economic periods, confusing those two things can quietly set people back years financially, especially if you grew up believing debt automatically equals danger. For a lot of people, paying off the house isn't just a financial goal. It's emotional. It's the dream their parents talked about for decades. No matter what happens, at least you own your home. Get rid of debt and you'll finally be free. And honestly, that belief makes sense, because when you're financially stressed, monthly bills start to feel psychological. Every payment feels like pressure, every debt feels like risk. And eventually, your brain starts craving certainty more than strategy. So people make sacrifices to attack the mortgage faster. They skip vacations, delay investing, drain savings, throw tax refunds and bonuses into home equity. And on the surface, it feels responsible. But underneath that feeling of progress, something dangerous can start happening. A person can have a paid-down house and still be financially fragile. That's the part almost nobody warns people about. Because if all your money is tied up inside your home, what happens when life hits unexpectedly? What happens if you lose your income? A medical emergency shows up, the economy turns bad, prices keep rising? You can't buy groceries with home equity. And many homeowners end up in this strange situation where they look financially secure from the outside, while quietly living one emergency away from panic. They feel safe, but they're actually exposed. And this is where one of the biggest financial myths starts hurting people. Here's the financial reality most homeowners never fully think through. Home equity is not the same thing as having money, because the second you put extra cash into your house, that money becomes trapped. On paper, you may look wealthier, your net worth goes up, your debt goes down, but your actual financial flexibility can quietly collapse. And the most dangerous part? The moment people usually need money is during financial stress. Job loss, medical emergencies, economic downturns, rising living costs. But those are also the exact moments banks become far more cautious. Suddenly, accessing your equity isn't simple anymore. Now you need approvals, income verification, strong credit, stable employment, good market conditions. And if your financial situation already looks shaky, banks don't rush to help you. That's the trap. People spend years aggressively paying down a mortgage believing they're becoming safer, while slowly reducing the cash available to survive real-world emergencies. Because a paid-off house doesn't automatically protect you from financial pressure. It doesn't pay your electric bill. It doesn't cover groceries. It doesn't replace lost income. And this is why so many people become what financial experts rarely talk about: house rich, but life poor. They have wealth locked inside walls they can't easily access when life turns against them. And in unstable economies, liquidity often matters far more than emotional comfort, because cash flow buys time, flexibility buys survival. But the real danger isn't just lost liquidity, it's opportunity destruction. But losing liquidity isn't even the biggest cost. The bigger cost is what that money could have become if it hadn't been locked into the house. Because when people aggressively rush to pay off low-interest mortgage debt, they often stop investing, stop building cash reserves, and stop creating future financial leverage. And over time, that decision can quietly delay wealth building for years, sometimes decades, especially during inflation, because inflation changes the entire game in ways most homeowners never fully understand. This is the part most homeowners never hear explained clearly. Inflation quietly changes the real cost of your mortgage over time. If you have a fixed-rate mortgage, your payment stays mostly the same, while the value of money slowly changes around it. In other words, future dollars become weaker, so the debt that feels massive today may become far less painful years from now as incomes, prices, and wages rise. That's why many financially successful people don't obsess over eliminating low-interest mortgage debt as fast as possible. They understand something the middle class is rarely taught: not all debt is equally dangerous. Wealthy individuals often prioritize liquidity, investments, cash flow, business opportunities, and appreciating assets, while keeping cheap, long-term debt working quietly in the background. Meanwhile, many financially stressed homeowners do the opposite. They pour every extra dollar into the mortgage, hoping it creates security while neglecting investing, emergency savings, or financial flexibility. And psychologically, it feels responsible. But financially, it can create a hidden long-term cost, because while your money sits trapped inside home equity, it's no longer compounding elsewhere. It's no longer building alternative income streams, no longer creating investment growth, no longer increasing flexibility. And for some people, the uncomfortable truth is this: they may have sacrificed years of future wealth just to feel temporarily safe in the present. That's the emotional trap. The middle class is often taught to fear debt emotionally, but financially successful people tend to focus on leverage, resilience, and strategic flexibility instead. And during unstable economic periods, this mistake becomes even more dangerous. Because when the economy becomes unstable, financial survival stops being about appearances and starts being about flexibility. Layoffs happen fast. Medical emergencies happen unexpectedly. Inflation quietly destroys purchasing power month after month. And in moments like that, people suddenly realize something terrifying. A paid-off house doesn't automatically protect you from financial panic, especially if most of your wealth is trapped somewhere you can't easily access. That's why the real question isn't simply whether paying off your mortgage is good or bad. The real question is, what actually makes someone financially resilient when life turns unpredictable? So maybe the goal isn't to become debt-free as fast as humanly possible. Maybe the real goal is becoming financially resilient, because there's a huge difference between looking financially secure and actually being financially prepared for reality. A smarter question isn't, how quickly can I pay off my mortgage? A smarter question is, could I survive losing my income for 6 months? Do I have accessible savings? Am I building investments outside my home? Do I have flexibility if the economy gets worse? Am I creating options for myself or eliminating them? Because a mortgage is not automatically the enemy. Financial fragility is. And for many people, aggressively attacking the mortgage becomes a psychological shortcut, a way to feel in control during uncertain times. But true financial strength usually comes from balance, liquidity, cash flow, emergency reserves, investments, adaptability. Those things may not feel as emotionally satisfying as making that extra mortgage payment, but they often matter far more when life becomes unpredictable. And once you start seeing money this way, something shifts. You stop thinking like someone trying to escape debt emotionally, and start thinking like someone trying to build long-term resilience and freedom. Real financial peace isn't just owning a house. It's knowing that one bad month, one layoff, one emergency won't completely destabilize your life. But too many people spend decades chasing the feeling of safety while quietly becoming more financially exposed underneath the surface, because society praises the image of being debt-free. But it rarely talks about financial stress, lack of liquidity, fragile cash flow, or the anxiety of having no real margin for error. And that's why so many people who did everything right still end up feeling trapped financially, not because they were irresponsible, but because they confused emotional comfort with long-term resilience. True financial freedom is usually quieter than people expect. It's flexibility, it's options, it's breathing room, it's adaptability when life becomes unpredictable. Not panic, not appearances, not blindly following financial cliches that were never designed for unstable economies. And sometimes the smartest financial decision isn't the one that makes you feel safest today. It's the one that keeps you strongest tomorrow. The hardest financial mistakes to recognize are usually the ones that sound responsible, the ones society praises, the ones repeated for decades, the ones nobody questions, because that's just what smart people do. But a lot of middle-class financial advice was created for a completely different economy, a different cost of living, a different world. And many people don't realize the damage until years later, when they've lost flexibility, lost opportunities, and boxed themselves into financial stress they never saw coming. which raises a much bigger question. If this belief about money was incomplete, what other financial rules have people been blindly following their entire lives? If you want to stop making financial decisions based on fear, conditioning, and outdated money advice designed for a different era, stay close to this channel, because a lot of the financial rules most people follow without questioning are often the exact ones quietly keeping them stressed, fragile, and trapped. This channel is about understanding how money actually works in the real world, psychologically, economically, and strategically. So before you make your next major financial decision, make sure it's truly built in freedom and not just the illusion of safety.